All right, page 2 is a pretty short one. It says a student tried to solve the following equation but made a mistake, and it gives us many steps. The question then asks in which step did the mistake first appear, and then it says step 2, 3, 4, or 5. So it wants to know which one is the first wrong step. Not the one that's correct before it, but which one shows wrong work. The only way to really do these is to go ahead and do them on your own and see where the work matches. Okay, so if I'm looking at this first problem, my first step is looking at PEMDAS to start multiplying. So I would need to multiply this here and this here. But if you look here, this should give me 6 minus 6x minus 4 equals negative 34. But if you look at this person's work, what they did was they saw this 6 minus 2 and they made it 4. That is not the correct step. That's putting subtraction before multiplication, which means that the error is in step 2, or that first mistake is shown in step 2. Okay, pretty easy one, hopefully. Another one says write an equation with slope-intercept form that describes a line where m is negative 5 and b is negative 9. Remember, your slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. This one is telling us that m is negative 5, so it'd be negative 5x. B is negative 9, so we're going to say minus 9. Some of you have also been showing it this way. It's not wrong, it's just complicated. I prefer this. Okay, so just be aware that's the same thing. Number 11 says solve the equation for y, then identify the slope and y-intercept. So we have an equation here. We need to solve for y. It's got a fraction in it, not a huge deal. Okay, what we're going to do is look at what's happening to y, and what's happening is it's not being multiplied by anything, but we are subtracting 3 halves x. So the opposite of that is going to be to add 3 halves x. This is kind of a tricky one that we haven't had exactly the same way in our notes, but that's how you would do it. These two are going to cancel out. It will leave me with y equals 3 halves x plus 3. Remember, you want to have that x term first so it matches the slope-intercept form. Now that I have that, I can pull out the slope, m, which is 3 halves, and the y-intercept, which is 3. Next one says use the given slope and y-intercept to graph the following lines and write the equation in slope-intercept form. So this is basically starting with what we had here, and it wants us to take this slope and the y-intercept and put it together as the equation. M is going to be negative 7/4, so it's going to be negative 7/4 x. B is 2, so B is going to be plus 2. So 7/4 x plus 2. Now, here's where we have to look a little bit more closely. If this is negative 7/4, remember we want to put that negative into the numerator. These are equal statements, but that way it tells us that this, my rise is negative 7, which is down. My run is positive 4, which is to the right. Now, I need to start with the y-intercept, which is 2, so I go to the center, I'm going to go up 2, then I'm going to go down 7 spaces and write 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my next point. I can't do that again because it's going to go off the page, so I'm going to leave these. And I told you guys earlier that you only need 2 points to make a straight line. So this is my straight line, just like that. Okay. Now on the next page, we're going to go ahead and go through that one as well. It's not going to take quite as long as I thought, so let's take a look at it. Number 13 is a very similar question. It says m equals 5, b equals 3. Now, the starting point of that, 5x minus 3, not so bad. The slope being a whole number, in order to make it match our formula of rise over 1, we're going to put it over 1. Okay. Now, this positive number 5 here means up, and the b being negative 3 doesn't affect this, but the bottom, the run is going to be plus 1. So we're going to start with b. Okay, go to negative 3, start in the middle, 1, 2, 3. There's my first point. My slope is 5/1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. I can put a couple of points on this one and then go ahead and draw my line. Easy. All right, next question, number 14, asks us to use the graph below to determine the slope, y-intercept, and equation of the line. Okay, so we need to do a few things here. Slope. For slope, we need pretty points. So I'm going to look for a pretty point. I see one right here where it crosses at that point, and I see another one right here where it crosses. This happens to be the y-intercept. My y-intercept is b, which equals 1 in this case. Okay, that was first step, find two pretty points. Second step is to draw your triangle and then count. So I'm going to start on the left. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and down is a negative direction. I'm going to go right 2 spaces, that's a positive direction. So my slope is down 5, right 2, negative 5 over 2. Go ahead and plug that into my equation. And I have the equation of my line, negative 5 halves x plus 1. Okay. The next couple we didn't exactly go over this way, but hopefully you guys can pick this up, because there are going to be a couple of questions like this on the test, and they should be gimmies. It says, if y equals 5x were changed to y equals negative 5x minus 3, what would change? So what we want to know is the slope changing? Is the y-intercept changing? Or are both changing? Well, here, m is 5, b is 0. Over here, m is negative 5, b is negative 3. So the slope is definitely changing. The y-intercept is also changing. This would be both. Okay. Same question for 16. If y equals x plus 3 were changed to y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3, what would change? Well, let's go ahead and find out what our slope and y-intercept are here, and then again over here, so that we can determine what the changes are. Here, there's no number in front of x, which means that's a 1. So my slope is 1. My y-intercept is 3. There we go. Here, my slope is going to be negative 1/3. My y-intercept is going to be 3. Now, the 3's are the same, which means that my y-intercept does not change. But from 1 to negative 1/3 is a change of just the slope. Okay? Same for the next two. We're going to find out what are m and b for these two equations, and what, if anything, has changed. So first one says 1/4 x plus 2. It's a slope of 1/4, y-intercept of 2. Here my slope is negative 4, my y-intercept is 2. The y-intercepts are the same, but the slopes are different. So this is a slope change. Last one of this type says if y equals x plus 3, well, let's continue our pattern here. M equals 1, b equals 3. Over here was changed to negative 1/3. Hey, look, it's the exact same problem. So we can actually skip number 18 because we already did it. Lucky you that I didn't pay attention to that. We're going to take a quick break before we get to the next section because these are different types of problems. So hold that thought.